This is 8-year-old Coco Gauff in 2012 at US Open Kids Day. Just 5 years after this video was taken, she'd be making history on this very court as the youngest ever US Open girls finalist. Less than a year later, she'd become the youngest Roland Garros girls champion in over 20 years. And a year after that, during the summer of 2019, she'd have one of the most incredible pro debuts of all time, defeating Venus Williams in her first ever Grand Slam at just 15 years old.
It's a dream debut for the 15-year-old.
Going on to be one of the last 16 women standing at Wimbledon 2019. And over the next 4 years, she'd rise in the pro rankings, win titles, grab countless sponsorship deals, become one of the most marketable female athletes on the planet, make millions of dollars, and win the US Open.
Get up, Coco Gauff. You've just won the US Open.
She went from a wide-eyed junior with lots of potential to a teenager whose measured perfectionism, eloquence, maturity, and emotional margin resulted in the ushering in of a new way to win. This is how Coco Gauff became a sports icon before turning 20. Born on March 13, 2004 to Corey and Candy Gauff, Corey Dion Gauff was built for tennis. Her father played college basketball at Georgia State and eventually worked in medical sales, while her mother ran track at Florida State University and grabbed the 7th highest heptathlon score in history at FSU, later working as a school teacher. Dad's coordination and mom's speed came together in one of America's tennis meccas, Delray Beach, Florida. So if you don't know much about tennis, you might not know that Delray Beach is one of the premier tennis hubs in the United States. In 1992, the Delray Beach Tennis Center was built and its 18 courts are open to the public. The venue also hosts the Delray Beach Open, an ATP 250 event that draws some of the biggest names in men's tennis. Not to mention, Venus and Serena relocated to this area from Compton when they were young, and countless top-ranked Americans go to Delray to sharpen their skills. Basically, if you want to be coached and potentially scouted by the best in the world, you go to train in Florida. And that's exactly what Corey and Candy did with their 7-year-old daughter, moving from Atlanta back to Delray to provide her with training opportunities. The Gauffs also had family ties to the area. Coco Gauff's maternal grandmother actually integrated the local high school in 1961, and her grandfather, Eddie Odom, founded a local little league that was open to black children in the area. Corey and Candy took their daughter to Pompey Park to train as a child, and their previous experience as athletes helped guide their role in Coco's development. Watch.
Coco's success as a professional athlete, or her upward journey, is a lot of decisions based upon my husband and I as former athletes. When I was a gymnast and I was asked to go and live in another state, and then my parents said no to that because of me living in someone else's home. So I kind of like changed my career.
I had the career I wanted to have. I realized that I could have gone farther, but I didn't have a father like me.
So beyond the just genetics of it, dad being a basketball star and mom being a track and field star, I think it was their strategic approach to Coco's development when she was really young that was the X factor here. And as I progress through this video, you'll understand why that matters. But that's kind of like a through line, is like Corey and Candy viewed their daughter as like clearly a talent, and they took a really strategic approach because of their experience as young athletes. The tennis parent is often seen as overbearing, obsessive, controlling, and places too much pressure on the child to perform in an already high pressure sport. Coco's almost always positive, upbeat, and focused on court, a trait that can largely be attributed to the environment in which she developed her game, in my opinion. So that development took a big leap when 10-year-old Gauff traveled to France to train with Patrick Mouratoglou. Hello, sorry for interrupting the video. I promise we'll get back to Patrick Mouratoglou soon, but I have two little disclaimers for this. The first one is that this video was actually filmed in April of 2024, so 95% of the stuff that I talk about in this video is accurate and relevant and helpful, but at the very end of the video, you'll notice I skip over a couple of relevant points in her career. Like, I don't talk about her Olympics journey or the fact that she was a flag bearer with LeBron James, and there are a couple of endorsement deals she got this year that I don't go over. So just keep in mind, there's kind of a gap between the point I filmed this and the point it's going out. So, and then the second disclaimer is just a little bit more of a personal note. Thank you so much for watching. And if you watched the Roger Federer and Serena Williams videos, thank you. I can't express my appreciation enough. And to people who commented and left positive comments, like, it means a lot. It was really overwhelming. I didn't expect those videos to blow up the way that they did. And I'm really happy that I found some people who enjoy the content that I enjoy as well. And many more videos to come. I'm excited to keep making videos like these, and I hope that they can get even better in the future. So yeah, those are the two disclaimers. This was filmed in April, and thank you so much. Okay, back to the video. Patrick was coaching Serena at the time and offered Coco a week-long audition at his academy. Well, it was kind of an audition, but I'll let Coco explain this part.
It was just, my parents, they got presented this great opportunity to go for a week and all expenses paid for. I'd never left the country. And then went to Paris for a week, and we did this process called Champ Seed, and it was like, it didn't feel like, it was not an auditioning, but I guess in a way. And he just picked the best of the best to kind of help fund our careers, essentially. That program kind of just exposed me to different ways to play. Probably would have never had red clay experience if it wasn't going there.
So with one of the most prolific coaches in tennis investing in Coco's career, her tennis took a big leap over the next few years. At age 12, Coco played the prestigious La Petite A in France and made the semifinals. At 13, she became the youngest US Open Junior finalist in history. At age 14, she won the French Open Junior title and became the youngest junior girls world #1. Then came New Balance. At the end of 2018, Coco Gauff signed a 4-year deal with New Balance. How much the deal was worth is a mystery, but it reminds me of the 5-year contract Venus Williams got from Reebok at just 15 years old, and that was worth $12 million in 1995. At the time, Venus had already made some waves on the Pro Tour, and that was a huge factor in the Reebok deal. Coco's ranking was around 900 when she got New Balance and had never played a pro match, just juniors. But the investment the brand would make in Coco would be huge over the next several years. So I think New Balance's handling of Coco is a perfect example of a brand harnessing buzz around a young athlete. And I'll get into more of that later, but essentially, like, the tennis world was noticing the potential in this young athlete, and New Balance got the jump on Coco, despite multiple offers. Shortly after signing with New Balance, she earned representation from Team 8, the agency formed by Roger Federer and his longtime agent, Tony Godsick. Godsick would be a huge factor in Coco's ascent to global stardom. He'd managed Monica Seles, Lindsay Davenport, and Anna Kournikova, among others. He is the tennis agent, and it was his media savvy that would allow all the right moves to be played in 2019. At the end of 2018, Coco set a goal with her father: be a top 100 ranked pro by the end of 2019. She was ranked 875 in the world at the time. Jumping 800 spots in the rankings in 1 year with no tour experience is a huge undertaking, especially for a 14-year-old who can only compete in a limited number of tournaments because of WTA age protection rules. But despite all of that, 1 year later, she would finish inside the top 70. And here's how she did it. Coco received a wild card into the 2019 Miami Open, often dubbed the Fifth Slam. She won her first round match and spoke to Tennis Channel afterwards.
So this is your first win, but it is not the first time that you have been talked about on this network. As a matter of fact, we talk about you a lot. And I'm curious how you view that, because you're so young, and yet a lot of people have identified you as the next fill in the blank, the next American Grand Slam champion, the next American #1. Jim Courier said on TC Live last night, who's the next American woman to win a Grand Slam? He said it might be you. When you hear stuff like that, does that feel like pressure to you, or do you like that kind of talk?
I actually like it. I always have Tennis Channel on at home. So like I sometimes hear my name, and every single time I run to the TV, and like all my brothers run, like, oh, they're talking about me. So I don't know if that feeling will ever go away, because I still run to the TV. I think my first time being mentioned was probably US Open Juniors. And then, I've been mentioned a lot on Tennis Channel after that, but I still run to the TV whenever I hear my name.
A few months later, Wimbledon. Now this was her true coming out party, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this tournament because I feel like it was a huge milestone for Coco, and it was really the event that brought her from a tennis prodigy to global recognition, and I think it's really important to know why. Coco found out she'd received a wild card into the Wimbledon qualifying rounds just days before competing. She'd play her first qualifying match ranked 313 in the world, eventually winning the 3 matches needed to advance to the main draw. In doing so, she became the youngest open-era qualifier in history at 15 years old.
I'm just so happy to play it. Last year I was able to play the juniors, so I'm a little bit familiar with the grounds, but obviously playing against the top players in the world, it's going to be a different feel.
Well, congratulations. You thoroughly deserve it.
Thank you so much.
So now she's in the main draw, and out of 127 other opponents that she could have potentially drawn in her first round match, there are 128 main draw entries into the Grand Slams. She drew 5-time Wimbledon champ, her idol, and former world number 1, Venus Williams. Of all people, drawing the person you've had so many comparisons to just seemed like fate. I mean, the move to Florida, her dad as her coach and mentor, the apparel deals. Tennis fans, including me, had seen this movie before, and the buzz around Coco had to feel familiar. So I found this clip from this podcast called Winging It, and here's her dad actually talking about the lead up to the match.
You know, we have this long walk from center court, and as we're walking down the hall, I realized, like, man, Venus is tall. She's my height.
Right.
And along the walls, they have pictures. And she's won it 5 times. So every few pictures you see Venus, and I'm like, I hope she's not looking at that picture of her holding the trophy as we're walking down the aisle.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't looking at it.
I was looking at the ground the whole time.
Yeah, she was.
I would have never thought that he was nervous. He never really shows that.
Yeah, as I left her, I think I kissed her on the cheek. That was always kind of our routine. We say a prayer before she goes out on the court, and then I leave. I kiss her on the cheek, and I start walking back. And the way you walk back, I don't see the crowd. I can hear them as she's walking on the court, but I got to find my way to the seat. And I remember I stopped at the bathroom. I was so nervous. I was like, all right, I got to calm down. And I was in the bathroom. I went to the stall, and I said another prayer. I said, Lord, I hope this is not too much, and I hope I haven't done too much too fast.
So most of us know what happened next. Coco Gauff defeated Venus Williams in straight sets, and after that, her name was everywhere. Every sports outlet had their eyes on the young American. She followed it up with another straight set win in round 2, and then another victory in round 3. 15-year-old Coco Gauff was among the last 16 women standing at Wimbledon 2019, joining the likes of Serena Williams, world number 1 Ash Barty, 2-time Wimbledon champ Petra Kvitova, and her next opponent, former world number 1 and Grand Slam champion Simona Halep. Simona would defeat Coco in straight sets and then go on to win the tournament, notching one of the best performances of her career with a straight set win over Serena in the final. But this tournament would largely be about Coco. This was the perfect introduction, making history as a qualifier, beating her idol, making it to the 4th round. After that, she took off. It wasn't just the tennis world who knew she was something special. Now the world at large was noticing. She went back to the States to prepare for the hard courts, and just before the US Open, New Balance launched a brilliant reactive campaign, Call Me Coco, branding their prodigy as Coco, which clarified any mix-up fans or the media had with her given name of Corey. Evan Zeder, global sports marketing manager at New Balance, said that the campaign was about name recognition. Win or lose, Call Me Coco. This wasn't about branding her as a prodigy or a champion or a winner. This was simply an introduction. And because it was just an introduction, I think it removed any pressure that would have been placed on Coco had she been branded as like a prodigy or a future champion or a winner, or even comparing her to Serena or Venus as tennis fans had wanted to do. New Balance kind of took it slow, which I think was really smart, and it was a very successful campaign, and I bought multiple of those Call Me Coco shirts. On top of that campaign, Coco made the cover of Teen Vogue with an accompanying article getting to know Coco. The shots in the piece were in line with her young and fresh brand, positive and upbeat, very sunny, very bright, awesome pictures. And then at the US Open, another golden moment put Coco in the spotlight, and she earned even more fans. After losing to Osaka in the third round on Arthur Ashe Stadium, Coco was invited by her opponent to do a post-match interview for her home crowd.
What has the experience been like? And tonight playing against one of the very best in the world, number one, Naomi.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, she did amazing, and I'm going to learn a lot from this match. And she's been so sweet to me, so thank you for this. Thank you.
As you saw, it was like very unplanned and clearly organic and off the cuff, and it was really the ideal end cap to her time in the spotlight over the summer of 2019. I mean, a fairy tale debut, a huge campaign with a mainstream apparel brand, a magazine spread, 2 wins at the US Open, and poise in a tough moment. It really doesn't get much better than that. But for Coco, the dream kept going. She met Kyrie Irving for a jersey swap, hung out with Jaden and Willow Smith, and capped off the season by winning her first WTA title in Linz.
Here we have got the new champion.
And with that win, she became the youngest WTA title winner in 15 years. And that title also meant she'd accomplished her goal that she set at the beginning of the year. She moved up 40 spots in the rankings to 71 in the world, eventually finishing 2019 ranked number 68. 2019 was Coco's breakout. Her agent, Tony Godsick, explained that the media requests after Wimbledon came pouring in.
Coco, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Congratulations on all of it.
Well, how about a fairy tale story about a young girl from Florida who could go on to be the youngest ever Wimbledon champion?
The 3 to 4 months after that event were critical. And I mentioned he was a savvy agent, but the approach for Coco was to only say yes to offers from brands that wanted to be there for the long haul. Don't say yes to everything. Be very picky. In an interview with Forbes, Godsick was asked how you represent a teenager who's rocketing to stardom. How do you keep her grounded when she has a job to do? Win matches, that is. And he said, "To be completely candid, I don't worry about it because we've had discussions and the parents are extremely grounded. It's just making sure she is surrounded by good coaches, her parents are great, and there are a bunch of people in our company that have been through this before. There are a bunch of mentors around." Going into 2020, Coco was still very much the new kid on the block, but she did have some expectation to fulfill. And at the Australian Open in January, her story continued to feel like it was written in a book because at her third major appearance, who does she draw in the opening round? Venus Williams. Again. And Coco wins in straight sets. Again.
An appropriate way to finish it. The Wonder Kid. And her first appearance.
Coco follows it up with a win over Sorana Cirstea in round 2, and then in round 3, who does she face? Naomi Osaka, defending champion Naomi Osaka again. She draws her again. The fact that she drew Naomi again, but this time the script was flipped. Coco used what she had learned at the US Open defeat. She served big, stayed positive, and played aggressive to beat Naomi in straight sets.
Remember the date. January 24, 2020.
So now, not only were people noticing Gauff's raw talent, they were noticing her ability to learn and evolve. And as a 15-year-old, to do that against a 2-time major champion is a really promising sign, and another sign that she was going to have a really long and successful career and that she had maturity. Like, she didn't just have the skills, she had the tactic to beat big opponents. After that, Coco faced fellow American Sophia Kenin and lost. That would be the second time in 3 major appearances she'd lose to the eventual champion. So her Australian Open was over, and a few months after that, the COVID pandemic would shut down the tours. So you wouldn't think that a tennis player would continue making headlines and gaining fans when tennis wasn't a factor, but the next few months would be another milestone in Coco's career. So next came the summer of 2020, May-June 2020. And the conversation in the United States in May and June of 2020 centered around racial injustice, and in the wake of George Floyd's death, the topic of law enforcement and their relations with people of color in the United States had reached a fever pitch. So Coco had been outspoken on social media regarding racial injustice before, but It was a speech she gave at a peaceful protest in her hometown of Delray Beach that really made waves. Watch.
My name is Coco, and who just spoke was my grandma. And I think it's sad that I'm here protesting the same thing that she did 50 plus years ago. You need to use your voice. No matter how big or small your platform is, you need to use your voice. I saw Dr. King quote that said, "The silence of the good people is worse than the brutality of the bad people." So you need to not be silent, because if you are choosing silence, you are choosing the side of the oppressor. And it's sad that it takes another black man's life to be lost for all of this to happen, but we have to understand that this has been going on for years. This is not just about George Floyd. This is about Trayvon Martin. This is about Eric Garner. This is about Breonna Taylor. And I promise to always use my platform to spread vital information, spread awareness, and fight racism. Black lives have always mattered. They mattered then, they matter now, and they will matter in the future. Thank you.
She was a celebrity at this point. Like, she had made the cover of Teen Vogue. She'd met Michelle Obama. She was a public figure. She probably knew about like social media trolls and bullies, and she probably had received some social media hate at that time. She knew that this wasn't without risk, and she did it anyway. The speech landed on Good Morning America, USA Today, People magazine, and virtually every sports media outlet in the world, and solidified her role as an active young voice among her generation. Remember, her grandparents were social trailblazers at Delray Beach, and now Coco was doing it on a global scale. It's moments like that that helped Coco transcend the sport of tennis and become, like, inch closer toward just becoming like a celebrity instead of just a tennis player. So later that summer, Coco partnered with Microsoft to feature their tech in her training while raising awareness about the brand's educational resources.
My next big move is to win a slam, and technology can help me do that.
Coco's ranking continued to rise in 2021. She made the semifinals as a qualifier in Adelaide, cracking the top 40, quarterfinal showings in Dubai and Charleston, followed by a semifinal appearance at the 1000 event in Rome, brought her inside the top 30. She then won her second career title in Parma right before the French Open, and it was at that 2021 French Open where she'd reach her first slam quarterfinal, losing to the eventual champion, Barbara Krejcikova, in straight sets. Fast forward a few months to the lead up to the 2021 US Open, and New Balance announces the Coco Gauff collection, a line of athletic wear featuring statement-making 90s styles with graffiti-inspired prints.
I'm Coco Gauff, and this is my collection, available at New Balance.
That US Open would see Coco lose in the second round in singles, but play her first slam final in doubles with her partner Katie McNally. Right after the US Open, she'd crack the top 20, but only briefly. She'd end the season ranked 22 in the world. 2022 proved to be another standout season for Coco. From a results perspective, it wasn't the best first half of the year. She wouldn't make a deep run at an event until the French Open, advancing all the way to the final. I do want to add, Coco wrote a powerful camera message after her semifinal win over Martina Trevisan: "Peace and gun violence, Coco." This came about a week after a gunman killed 21 people at an elementary school in Texas, and just hours after a mass shooting in Tulsa left 5 people dead, including the shooter. I wanted to highlight this moment because it was moments like these, and it continues to be moments like these that put her, separate her from her peers. She'd go on to lose to 2020 champ and world number 1 Iga Swiatek in the final, but reaching this stage of a slam was a huge career achievement.
Tournament, I didn't expect a final. Beginning of this year, I lost Australian Open in a couple first rounds, and I think that I was just going into the matches trying so hard to win, but not for myself, but for other people. And I think this tournament was the first tournament this year that I went in trying to win for myself, and I think that was a difference in my mentality. And I think that now that I found that mental state, I know how to get there. I think it'll help me in future tournaments.
Shortly after that event, New Balance announced another release with Coco.
This is more than a shoe.
The CG1, Coco's signature shoe.
So this is actually my favorite part when people ask me about my shoe that I've shown. Obviously no one's seen this one yet. My favorite is my brother's names on the laces, and then also the basketball and the track on the back of the shoe for my parents. And then the "You can change the world with your racket" quote is definitely one I've said a lot. So when I first said it, didn't think it would end up on a shoe, but it's pretty cool.
This made Coco the only active tennis player with a signature shoe, and was just the third signature shoe launch for New Balance's women's division. Since that original launch, New Balance has released multiple colorways for the CG1, including sizes for men and for kids. She even had her little brother Cameron design a pair, and I personally love the Spooky Edition released during Halloween 2023, and I also happen to own a pair. Shortly after the launch of the CG1, she'd reach world number 1 in doubles with Jessica Pegula. Off the court, she was signing deals with American Eagle, releasing an NFT collection, and dropping more CG1 colorways. In the lead up to the US Open, she was featured as the cover story for ESPN and filmed a day in the life with Vogue.
Hey Vogue, I'm Coco Gauff, and I'm playing a match today here at the Atlanta Open. Come spend the day with me.
And by November, she was the 4th best player in the world, granting her a spot in the coveted year-end finals in both singles and doubles. Her 2022 season would end with a slam final under her belt, a top 10 finish in singles and world number 1 in doubles, and more exposure than she'd ever had before. What I'm realizing, and what I realized as I'm writing this video essay, is that her career was a slow and steady rise, which I think was in large part choreographed by Tony Gottsick and teammate, and was encouraged by her parents. Like I said, she's very grounded. She has a great team around her, and her parents wanted to approach her career very strategically, and I think that they wanted to prevent her from burning out. I never, throughout like her career, I never got the sense that she was being caught up in the media frenzy. I never saw her like have a meltdown or feel like she was succumbing to the pressure, which is something we've seen, I think, with other athletes who have amazing tour debuts. What Tony Gottsick said about his strategy for Coco has been proven right as she progressed over the next few years. So now moving on to 2023, the US Open year. She wins her first event of 2023 without dropping a set, her 3rd career WTA title.
It's a 3rd Hologic WTA title for Coco Gauff. It was just a matter of time.
She announced a new colorway for her signature CG1s before the Australian Open. She then equaled her career best showing down under, but lost to Ostapenko in round 4. Before heading to Europe, she appeared on the CW's All-American Homecoming and then signed a deal with Bose, the headphones we'd see her wearing during those big walkouts at the slams. And Bose wasn't the only big brand she was adding to her list of endorsements. She also partnered with UPS for their Be Unstoppable campaign. This campaign focused on helping small businesses owned by minorities fulfill their needs.
They call it impossible.
We call it unstoppable.
In Europe, she made the quarters at the French Open before hitting a bit of a speed bump at Wimbledon with a first-round loss to Sophia Kenin. And I think this is where Coco realized she needed to change things up a little bit to take her game to the next level, and a fresh set of eyes could help elevate her tactics. That's where Perry Reba and Brad Gilbert came in. I'm sure this coaching change was a family decision, and it's a marker of maturity for Coco. At just 19, she spotted parts of her game she needed to improve. Brad Gilbert and Perry Reba fit the bill for her. Also, remember what I said about Coco's parents. It was another really positive sign that Coco's dad took an even further step back from Coco's on-court development to ensure she took her game to the next level. Brad Gilbert is probably best known these days as an ESPN commentator, but if you're a tennis lover, you know he coached Andre Agassi to 6 major titles and was on Andy Roddick's team during that US Open win in 2003. With Reba as her official coach and Gilbert as a consultant, Coco Gauff would win 18 of her next 19 matches. She won City Open in DC, and then the biggest title of her career at the time, the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati, a 1,000 event, one tier below the Grand Slams.
Coco, champion of Cincinnati. Coco Gauff, the youngest player to win the Western and Southern Open. Big smile, and the crowd is loving it.
In doing so, she defeated Iga Swiatek, the world number 1, and a woman who'd beat Coco in their 7 previous meetings.
And arguably the biggest match win of Coco Gauff's career. She takes out the number 1 player in the world. She reaches her first career 1,000 final, and for the first time, she defeats Iga Swiatek.
She went into the US Open ranked 6th in the world with a newfound confidence. not only because of her recent results, but because of the fresh coaching team behind her. And things weren't just improving for Coco on the court. Off the court, she was doing big things as well. New Balance debuted Coco's Court, a pop-up at the New Balance Flatiron store in New York. The experience featured all things Coco Gauff and set the stage for Coco's newest CG1 colorway, City Brights. And right before taking the courts, New York City brand Aimé Leon Dore partnered with New Balance to re-release the New Balance T500 with Coco as the model in these incredible photos. Her US Open campaign kicked off with a dramatic win over Laura Siegemund. Commentators and myself noticed a different Coco Gauff. The forehand, her biggest weakness, was looking stronger. The Gilbert effect was proving successful. She was employing more tactics in her victories. Brad Gilbert's relaxed approach led to Gauff putting more trust in her abilities. She had more belief. She had just won the biggest title of her career in Cincinnati, and she had a slam final to call upon. She was learning. Another thing I noticed, and we all noticed at the US Open this year, was her dad's presence, or lack of presence. He wasn't in her player box. Instead, he opted to watch her matches from a suite high above the court. Earlier, I explained the tennis parent being an overbearing and sometimes too involved presence in the player's life. Corey Gauff's willingness to take his ego out of Coco's development shouldn't be overlooked. Sometimes, stepping back is the smartest move you can make as a coach, and I can't imagine it was easy to do as her father. She then went on to defeat former world number 1 Caroline Wozniacki, then the woman who beat Coco Gauff at the Australian Open, then Roland Garros and Cincinnati finalist Karolina Muchova, and then world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka to win her first Grand Slam.
Get up, Coco Gauff. You've just won the US Open.
Just like in 2019, this was a dream ending to an incredible summer for Coco Gauff. Something that started at Wimbledon, built momentum all the way to the US Open, ending in an incredible moment. And winning the US Open, I watched it live, and it was just incredible to see her win the whole thing. I mean, she came in as the favorite. She was 19 years old, and she dealt with the pressure beautifully, and I loved it. And it actually led me to buy this shirt. Isn't that great? Coco Gauff, US Open champion. During the summer of 2023, she notched wins over 8th-ranked Sakkari, a reigning Wimbledon champion, the world number 1, multiple major winners, and the reigning Australian Open champion, all at home with all the pressure on her shoulders at 19 years old. A month after winning in New York, she played the China Open and advanced to the semifinals. Her 16-match win streak ended at the hands of the world number 2, Iga Swiatek. She then went to Cancun for her second WTA finals and won 2 matches in the group stages to advance to the semifinals, a much better showing from her winless 2022 finals. She'd finished the year as the 3rd best player in the world, which marked the 6th straight year she improved on her year-end ranking. 686, 68, 48, 22, 7, and now 3. She started 2024 by defending her title in Auckland, then posted her best ever finish at the Australian Open, losing to the eventual champion Aryna Sabalenka in the semifinals. And upon her return to the United States to play Indian Wells in Miami, Coco Gauff appeared on the cover of Vogue. This was her biggest cover yet. It was shot by iconic photographer Annie Leibovitz with a feature written by Abby Aguirre. In the article, Coco spoke about her attitude toward perfectionism, saying, "I'm trying to do more of, accepting the good shots and giving myself as much of a compliment as I do a critique." So in tennis, it's really easy to be too hard on yourself. As an individual sport, almost every error essentially comes down to you. And that's what makes tennis, and that's what makes individual sports, I think, so mentally exhausting. We've seen so many players in recent years step away from the game to take mental health breaks. One slam wonders, prodigies, the next gen, all of it comes with the pressure of perfection. And nowadays, fans have a direct line to players through social media. If they're upset with the way a player performed, they can DM the player on Instagram, on Twitter, and it's tougher and tougher to be an athlete in the modern era. With all the brand deals, with the US Open, With the New Balance lines and the cover of Vogue, Coco managed to hang on to her identity as a teenager. Relaxed, unscripted is how I view Coco. And I think it's that lack of fussiness that describes her generation. More casual, looser, more off the cuff.
Let's do a fit check in New York.
And that attitude may help her going forward. Physically and emotionally, she's approaching the game with more margin, aiming for big targets, running a lot, and finding the positive in every match. And when I say she's playing with more emotional margin, what I mean by that is, as she's matured, I think she's learning to not take the losses so personally. With Coco, that emotional margin really came into play during the summer of 2023. I think that Wimbledon loss against Sofia Kenin was such a big turning point for Coco, and Brad Gilbert's involvement in her game allowed her to view tennis in like a more relaxed way. Coco Gauff is 20 years old, and if she stays healthy, I think she'll have a solid 10 to 15 years on the tour. And I cannot wait to see how she continues to evolve, and I can't wait to see how she continues to inspire the generations of tennis players that are coming after her. That, among so many other things, are what makes Coco Gauff a sports icon. Okay, that's the end of this video essay, and thank you for watching if you made it this far. I'm not going to say like and subscribe. Bye.
As someone who started young looking at Coco Gauff, I wonder if you had any advice for her.
I think she's doing everything great, you know. Big fan, actually. You know, I am so excited for her. Love her family. Gosh, I just couldn't feel more proud. I would be wrong to step in right now and give her advice. I think she's doing great.
Hi, Maurice. Okay, nice to meet you. Okay. They posted on my fan page. Oh, okay. Are you Coco Gauff fans or? Okay, I'll make sure it's your account and then I'll DM you. Okay. Thank you. No problem. That's my dream. Oh, thank you. Well, nice to meet you. Oh, thank you. Oh, don't start crying, okay? Oh, you're so sweet. It's okay. Don't cry, okay?
What's gotten into these Atlantic High Eagles? This week, they seem to soar all over the court. And wouldn't you? If the number 6 tennis player in the world, Delray's own Coco Gauff, laced you up with some new kicks?
Thank you to Coco, Corey, and the Gauff family. 8 down 3, possible 6, 1, 2, 3.
On Tuesday, Atlantic debuted this custom colorway of the CG1s.
It's a special day for me and our kids, one that we'll never forget.
A gift that New Balance and the Gauff family were excited to deliver.
To debut the shoe in another sport is to be the first time somebody's actually playing an actual game and then outside of tennis, so it's kind of exciting.
I hope it helps my kids shoot better, jump better, and play defense better.
They did, to the tune of a 16-point home win, earning them some social media congrats from Coco all the way from the Australian Open.
That was the first time I seen my dad cry at the French Open. He claims he wasn't crying, so I'm gonna just believe that. But today I was up close and I saw it, and my mom, I rarely see my mom cry either, and I rarely cry over happy stuff, but this is just like crazy, and oh my God, that moment, I will never forget that, like, ever. I mean, it means so much to me, truly.